Hello, and welcome to this session of How to Make It in America. Just a brief introduction of the panel here. This is Furthest Annie Price, who is executive producer and showrunner in the US with lots of experience, and she's just made Real Life the Musical, which you can catch tomorrow in this festival as well.
Yes, hello.
And here next to me is Allison, who is an agent, and we'll talk much more about the whole agency thing in the US, which is kind of new to us Danish people at least. And she's representing Richard, who is a dear guest to this festival. Many of you have seen his shows, and many of them have been made in and will be made in Denmark. And he has Love Productions, and we'll see some clips from some of the shows. And the main focus of this session is how to gain access to the most prestigious and most lucrative TV market in the world, the American. And we'd very much like you to ask in. You can just raise your hand and ask if there's anything as we go along the session you want to ask either from the panel about. First of all, let's just see Rich's newest showreel from Love Production. Please run the tape.
Do you think it's becoming about love?
Yeah, it is.
Over the past 10 years, Love Productions has delivered groundbreaking television.
I thought it was going to be another documentary.
To millions of British.
There is some amazing talent in this marquee. It's just phenomenal.
Bam.
And American viewers.
There's going to come a time when one day you're going to have a child, and the most important person that you're going to want beside you other than your husband is your mom.
As well as captivating huge audiences, Love's pioneering and critically acclaimed programmes
MashaAllah. We've got him to say a prayer? Woo!
Have beaten global competition.
My hands are shaking.
Oh, good God. Okay. Oh man, I'm sorry.
To secure the Rose d'Or.
Yes.
And Britain's highest honour.
Please, please. Joe!
A BAFTA.
Totally gobsmacked. Sorry.
But beyond the awards, Love's programmes are a celebration of life and the extraordinary people who live it.
I'm going to have a family.
From first-time fathers to an 8-year-old's first day at school.
I've never boarded before, so it's a bit,
Mothers finding the strength to let go of sons.
She always wants the best for me, so she'll let me go.
Children grow up so fast.
And sons summoning the courage to let go of mothers. Love's cameras have documented television's most incredible personal journeys. As a prime-time comedian.
Are they laughing at me?
They're saying that you're fat.
And the host of The Voice.
Come all the way to Kenya. What's the first thing I eat? Plate of chips.
Learned what it took to survive.
You're in here. I'll never forget you.
In Africa's largest slum.
Honestly, you're a soldier. I don't know how you do that.
I'm a soldier.
On a regular basis.
Thank you.
As the wives and girlfriends of England's super-rich footballers.
I don't know how this is going to work. There's just so many.
Found a way to rescue South Africa's orphans.
All it took was 2 people to ask her story, ask her about herself, take an interest in her.
During the 2010 World Cup.
We'll be happy now.
As a troubled 16-year-old found the father within him.
You know when you've done something really good and that everything tastes better.
And a grandfather.
I might limp along a bit, but I tell you what, I do not feel like getting up and dancing.
Proved that there's still a teenager in all of us.
We're going to welcome Trevor to the free hand.
Life-changing programs that prove no matter where you come from.
Every piece of this lovely body feels like piece of mind.
Wherever you find yourself.
So I've got 200, it's 20 to get into the football. I'm not eating yet and I'm a bit hungry, but it's the prep, innit?
You can always find hope.
You study hard?
Yes.
Good.
And there's always
And it's a baby puppy.
a chance.
So, Richard, you're obviously a very successful producer and having a successful company in the UK.
Yeah.
Why at all take that to America?
I think because it's, commercially it's probably the biggest market in the world. So, I mean, in terms of, running a business, if you can land a series, in the States, whether it's on cable or whether it's on network, it can be company transforming, without a doubt. I mean, interestingly, when we first went out there, I remember the now controller of BBC One, Danny Cohen, saying to me, just be careful, Richard, because I've seen British producers go out there before and lose attention to the primary market. You're a UK producer. But, potentially, America, you can make a lot of money, and so being honest, the commercial reason is primary. But I think for me, it's also the creative challenge. I think that to produce shows in America for a different market, certainly we found, and we'll come on to it later with the Baby Borrowers. We made that for a network in America. I worked with an American showrunner, and I learnt masses that I then, imported back to Britain. And I think that Britain is also slowly becoming more Americanized in the way that it is producing shows. It is becoming, television generally, at least in my, career time, is consistently moving in a more entertainment direction, which is what the American TV market is. It's very much an entertainment market. So in that sense, I think it's very easy for British people and Europeans to be a bit snobby about America and say, oh, it's dumbed down, but I actually think that's way too simplistic and generalized, and I think that there are fantastic opportunities there as a producer. So, I mean, in fact, that particular taster was made for an American executive who is trying to, get us a show in the States. And interestingly, the first cut of it, he said very honestly, listen, it's a bit too compelling at the moment. Which tells you a bit of an insight into the American market. And actually, you know what, we changed it as a result of that. And by the way, Allison and her colleague Joe Labraccio agreed with that. They often say to me when I cut the tasters, could you just lighten it up a bit? It's a bit dark. It's a bit, and so we recut it and gave it much more of that sort of feel-good feel to it.
But when you watch your show reel, it feels like most of your show has a kind of higher purpose of asking questions about how you live your life and all that.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, if you have a higher purpose, you would maybe want to get out to more people. Or what? Is that a part of it as well?
In terms of going to America, or just generally?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. It's interesting, Make It in America. I think we're a very good example of a company that has sort of made it in America, then not made it. Then about to make it again, then not made it. And then, as we'll come on later, made it again, and then not made it. So we're still trying to crack it. I'm not going to give up, because I think that, partly, again, I'll be completely honest, commercially I want to make it in America, but also I do have I want, in the same way that I wanted to bring large audiences to serious subjects in the UK on Channel 4 and keep serious stuff in prime time, I want to bring an American audience to some of the subjects that we're able to explore in the UK on primetime television.
Could you make it in America on yourself? Or do you need help?
No, you definitely need help. I mean, I'm actually a great advocate of the agent. I think, and you know, listen, I think there's part of an argument to introduce the agent into the UK, the way some of the broadcasters are behaving. But no, I think agents, I mean, they're culturally very different for Europeans. But I found going into the American market it very liberating to have an agent, and certainly again, I mean, we'll get onto it with the baby borrowers, but you know, the agent was able to work. I mean, this is again Alison's colleague Joe Labraccio and Michael Camacho were able to work very successfully to drive the budget up, the deal points up, and I think it's absolutely essential because first of all, when you take a show out there, you're pitching it across all the broadcasters. And so then someone's got to do the follow-up with the broadcasters, and someone's got to, you know, try and then negotiate the budgets up and get good deal terms. They're also, well, I should let Allison say really about.
Yeah, listen,
what
is it about? Because for Danish people, you just pitch ideas to broadcast and get commissions. Why would they need a person like you in the American market?
Well, I think the example that Richard gave earlier about the first cut of the reel that he showed, and we did look at it and say, it's a little too worthy, a little too compelling, you know, the buyers won't get it. And I think it's just to translate the American sensibility a little bit, first and foremost. I mean, just as a sounding board, I think it's useful. But also, you know, we have access to information in terms of what the buyers want. And as Annie can attest to, you know, it changes, radically changes, constantly changing. And so we're able to kind of help the producers sort of target these different buyers very specifically. And it's, again, also in terms of leverage, we can help leverage producers, you know, because we have the information of our other clients who have made deals at certain places, so we know what kind of deals are possible and out there for producers. And also for introductions in terms of, you know, we might represent talent that is in need of a production company. And so packaging is a really big part of what agents do.
So you help Richard make a crew.
Yeah, you know, if Richard, well, first and foremost, when, you know, if you're going to sell a show to America from overseas, the executives at the networks in America, I think there's a comfort level to having one of their own sort of shepherd the project. So whether it's an American showrunner that needs to be put into it, which oftentimes happens, we help do that. Whether it's just having the dialogue with someone on the ground there, an American agent, I think makes it more comfortable for the network executives. And it also allows us to sort of be the bad guy and let the producers focus on the creative and do their work, so we can have all the difficult conversations about money and things that you don't really want to talk about when you're really focused on the creative and making a show.
Yeah, and I think they also, you know, they stop you pitching bad ideas and making a fool of yourself.
That's
you know
true,
what I mean?
Yeah.
When I've got my ideas and I'm about to go to the States, I'll show them to Alison and she'll say, don't even open your mouth on that one. That's, you know, and that's very helpful. And that then, you know, if you do go in and even if they don't buy the idea, if you pitch good ideas and you show them good tasters, then they remember you and then they're interested in working with you in the future, which is half the battle.
And who pays you? The broadcaster or Richard?
The broadcaster can, you know, if we package the project, which means we put enough elements together. So we have the producer and then we put in a showrunner or attach talent to it, then the network oftentimes will recognize it as a package and we'll take 3% of the overall budget. Otherwise, if not, then we just commission the producer and get 10%, the classic agent, 10% of what the producer makes.
So Annie, have been working always in the American market. Do you need an agent as well?
I do, and I love having an agent for all of the reasons that Allison was saying. I think some of the most valuable services that an agent provides to me is mostly what different networks are looking for. I work primarily in cable, and American cable networks change their tastes routinely all the time. By the time you come up with an idea, they're changing what they want. So the agents are on the phone constantly, every day, talking to network executives and trying to figure out what's coming around the bend, what they're looking for. I get updates from my agency. And so it's been extremely helpful to me, yes. I mean, the personal relationships usually most of the work I get are from personal relationships, but my agent will also bring to me ideas from other people that they represent in their company, attach me as a showrunner, which makes it more sellable to a network. So it is a big combining effort, and plus it's always great to have the agent get on the phone and, like you said, be the bad guy. Say, no, we need more money for this. No, we need more time for this. No, we need this or that. So I do like having an agent, and I think it's worth the commissions.
Do you think could you bring the agent system to the British
Well, it's
market?
interesting. I mean, I think that's the one time that I think, where I'm in the UK market and I'm thinking, God, it'd be nice to have an agent, is because as budget negotiations become increasingly hard, the level of frustration is such that you want to let off steam at the broadcaster, but I'm constantly being told by our head of business affairs, no, come on, you've got to tell them what they want to hear, let us do that. And, to be able to let off steam to the agent, for the agent to then, explain the information and negotiate on your behalf could be really valuable. So yeah, I think in that sense, and I also think I do think the British market is moving more towards. I mean, one of the very big differences is that in the UK, when you pitch an idea to a commissioner, there's a sort of unspoken that you won't go and pitch it anywhere else. I mean, that's changing, but you'll give them a week or two to make the decision, and sometimes that week or two turns into 6 weeks. And, quite frankly, to run a business where at the end of 6 weeks they turn down an idea, you've got to start again with another broadcaster, is not as efficient as, listen, we've got this really great idea, let's go in, speak to every broadcaster over 3 days and see who wants to buy it. And if 3 people want to buy it, then, who's going to control the bidding war and work that out? So, I think that, I don't know if agents will come in the unscripted factual market to Britain. But also, actually, the other thing is, one thing that's really hard in Britain at the moment is finding talent to produce your shows. I mean, literally, which is a good sign that, work in unscripted is very, very busy. But, we have 2 shows at the moment and we cannot find producers to make them. And again,
she's sitting right next to you.
If there were agents who were looking after showrunners in the way that the American model happens, that might be easier too.
Just for Annie, could you explain what a showrunner is, because it's for a Danish minded
series
showrunner in the reality world is basically the main creative and, in many cases, the main business person who's responsible for making a series. A sizzle reel, a lot of times, will sell a show to a network, and then I would be hired by the production company that sold it to the network, and they would say, well, here's our sizzle reel, here's our budget, please make 10 episodes. So it's my responsibility to take the idea and figure out exactly how to cast it, how to hire everything from all of the technical requirements all the way down to how does the story break out into each show and each individual act, supervising the shooting, supervising the editing, and dealing with the network to make sure that all of their requirements and all of their notes for the show are created. And so it's a very big job from kind of soup to nuts, as we say, and it can be very challenging, especially when network executives, we can have an idea of what we want the show to be, and then the network executives can change their mind halfway through, and so we reboot and we do turn it in different directions. So it's kind of the main person. You run the show, you make sure it gets done and turned in on time.
So Allison, would you say if you were a Danish production company and you had a good idea and it went to you, and could they produce it themselves, or would they have to have an American showrunner?
I think they would have to, well, in general, I would say they would have to have an American showrunner. But that said, it depends on what the format is. If it's really clean and has the right pacing and it feels familiar to the American market, they might take a chance and have them, I think, produce it themselves. But that has, I think more often than not, at least UK formats, which I'm more familiar with, they tend to, the pacing is different, which concerns, the Americans, I think. And so I think that's really when you end up thinking, well, love the format. Let's just get an American in there to help jazz it up.
Jazz it up.
Yeah.
Richard, tell us a bit about, we're about to see a clip of Baby Borrowers.
Yeah.
What did you do getting that to America? How did it start?
I mean, what happened was, I suppose, because when the Baby Borrowers aired in the UK, it became a kind of world news story, and our company was only about 1.5 years old at the time, and it was suddenly international news, and it was a strong format, and I thought, gosh, there's a possibility of selling this perhaps in America. We also at the time had something called Cirque du Celebrity, and so I quickly looked at the possibility of agents, who would be able to help me pitch it, and then cut a taster, flew out to LA, met with Allison's colleague Joe Labraccio, and we went and pitched it to, about 10 or 12 various cable network, and including MTV were very interested. I mean, straight away, I think it was an unusual circumstance. It was a very good taster. It was a very strong idea, and it generated a lot of interest and immediately quite a lot of offers for the series. So yeah.
So let's just see the Baby Borrowers.
The other thing I'd say, just quickly, how long have I got here? I mean, the thing I find about America is never go there without a sizzle reel, because you will die in the room. Yeah. It's just a question of whether you're going to die after 45 seconds or 4 minutes. And at the moment you die, you reach for your sizzle.
Yes.
In BBC Three's smash hit of 2007, 5 teenage couples agreed to take part in a unique experiment, which changed their lives forever.
Oh my fucking God, what have I done?
They thought they were ready for the biggest challenge of them all. Parenthood.
I really want a baby.
I can handle babies.
But reality kicked in with the arrival of the teens' first task. Looking after somebody else's babies.
Oh, wow, okay.
Are you ready?
I'm shitting myself, Sam.
I think often teenagers are misunderstood and underestimated.
You just think if it helps in any way, shape or form, if they want to borrow my baby, that's fine.
You just left the baby here and went inside.
You take your fucking time, so don't come here and scream at me then. Don't come from school.
This is testing the relationship to the max.
It's the fact that you fucking lied to me, not the fact that you've been looking after a baby all day. Fucking hell, will you listen to what I'm fucking saying?
After 3 demanding days, the babies were replaced with toddlers.
Don't move, Yannick, don't move, Yannick.
Oh, it's kid hidden, please.
4 days later, it was the turn of the preteens.
Listen to me, you're going to listen. Stop playing up, okay? Listen.
The words "thanks a fucking bunch" come to mind.
With the teen couples at breaking point,
Don't talk for me. You don't know what I'm thinking. Don't talk for me.
the most difficult youngsters of all arrived.
Right, bedtime. No way.
Teenagers.
Right, there's a few rules.
When I come and ask you, Jamie, have you been smoking in the house? You say you haven't, but how can I trust you now?
I just want to go home. Go home.
And just when they thought it was all over,
Oh, we want to go to bed already.
they had to care for the elderly.
Don't want to do it. I'll never have to do it, so why do I have to fucking do it now?
There's one thing I would love you to do. That's lovely.
He signed up for the Navy at the age of 18. I don't even want to leave home.
With no instructions.
I think we want out.
No experience.
What did I do wrong?
And no lack of honesty from the real parents.
Sam, my advice to you is do not have kids.
What do you think as the two of you need to be nice to each other?
I'm her mum. I'm telling you, you are doing a good job.
Did their relationship survive?
No. What you've done seems stupid. You admitted what you've done was stupid.
All I want you to do is fucking stay at home with me, Alex. Not go down the fucking pub, not go to fucking Tesco's. You can go down the fucking shop and get what you need to fucking get.
Did the experiment prepare them for the rest of their lives?
anyone who's considering having a baby should come on this show, because it is not easy.
Or did they run screaming back to mum and dad?
Fucking take the piss!
It was 40 years of adult life in just 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks to learn this much is so mad.
Nobody had ever been through this before.
This is like completely new territory.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die.
We just wasn't prepared for it at all.
Meet the Baby Borrowers.
Yeah, he was sick on the carpet.
So you went around pitching it to a lot of people, a lot of channels, broadcasters at the same time.
Yeah.
What was the reaction?
It was really, really good, strong, positive reaction. And very quickly, MTV expressed interest, wanted to buy it. And I think then I went back to London after about a 4-day trip, and the agents called up then Michael Camacho and Joe Labraccio, who worked with Allison, and said, listen, we've got great news. NBC want to buy it. And they are offering $750,000 an episode, 6-episode deal.
Which is kind of another budget than you were producing for in the UK, yeah?
You can make loads of shows in the UK for that. And then the next thing was, but also we got great news, CBS want to buy it as well. But CBS want to do it as a competitive reality elimination show. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to NBC and see where we get to. And eventually, I mean, actually it was very, very funny because it was a sort of Saturday morning, and I think I was I'm taking my family to Greenwich, and I was getting off the boat, and I got a call from Michael Camacho saying, you know, I said, look, sorry, I can't talk right now, I'm getting on a boat. Anyway, about an hour later, he calls me up again, he says, you never fucking tell me that you can't take a call. Listen, I've got you, you know, $6 million deal, 6-hour episodes, you know, non-auditable budget, and you can set up Love Productions US. And actually, it was a brilliant wake-up call to the fact that it was an incredibly exciting moment, and we, you know, we were able to go and do the series. And actually, Michael and Joe were brilliant in terms of helping us set up a new company in the US, helping us find the right showrunner, and helping us through the process of making the series.
In that situation, who decides to go with MTV or NBC? I mean, does the agent have a say, or do you have the final say?
Well, I wasn't there at the time,
no, but
in general, I think the offer, first and foremost, speaks, you know, the loudest.
Money.
But that said, I don't know that you can answer. I don't know that you would have been willing to make it a competitive reality elimination series.
Yeah, and to be fair, they, you know, Michael and Joe knew that and were advising against it as well. I mean, that's where they are involved in the creative process. In fact, you know, I would say that, I mean, one of the reasons that I've stayed with Michael Camacho is that he is one of the best at judging. I mean, you know, he's almost better than a lot of US executives at judging a good idea. I mean, when I take stuff to LA, I'll sit down with Michael, he'll go through them, and he'll say, no, we can't sell that, we can't sell that, we can't sell that, that we can sell. And more often than not, he's right. And in fact, we were, I mean, this is interesting, we were in LA, we'd been making a show called Undercover Boss for Channel 5, and we were in there with a paper pitch, and, you know, Michael said, that we will sell. Now, as it turned out, we didn't sell it because we only had a paper pitch, and a week later, Stephen Lambert was in there, he sold the show. But the point of the story is that Michael Camacho knew what sells, and that's incredibly helpful.
But ultimately, it's the producer's decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they listen to money as well sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because, I mean, since that time, the American market has changed, and it is much more a cable market.
Yeah.
And actually, one could argue that in retrospect, if we had sold it to MTV, Baby Borrowers could still be playing out on MTV because this was before 16 and Pregnant, and a lot of other similar shows came along. And the fact that it was on a network, although it was fantastic to get such a high budget and to produce it and everything, they didn't recommission it. despite doing well, because you know, the advertisers found it hard to get advertising, and because of I mean, you know, you should talk about the network.
Well, yeah, no, but I was going to say that the other reason to have an agent is, you know, I think oftentimes someone gets excited, they have an offer from a network, let's just sell it there. And I think we are so familiar with what works and doesn't work and why things work, and sort of can get inside the head of the executives of the different networks, that we would say, you know what, because we were talking about this earlier, I actually think I would have pushed to sell it to MTV, because networks are much more risk averse and they don't let things grow. So if something is put on the air 6 episodes and doesn't find an audience within the first 2, they've already planned on canceling it. They're going to let the next 4 play out, but they've moved on. Actually, oftentimes they pull it after 2 episodes. Whereas in cable, they make a longer investment in it. They have a lot more hours to fill of original programming, and they give it a chance to find an audience and grow. So
you find the same, Annie, with cable?
Cable is, like I said, the cable market in America is driven by 2 things, I think. Number one is a format that one network will find to be successful, so everybody else does a copycat format of that, such as I was saying earlier, Antiques Roadshow started a whole cavalcade of what they call a transactional format show now that became Pawn Stars and American Pickers and Storage Wars and all of these kind of, the hidden treasure that might be in my basement or my garage so they get very trendy, and that taste can change depending on who gets a new format idea quickly, and then everybody will do a copycat of that. And the other thing that really drives cable programs are very odd personalities and high drama and unusual cultures. We're in a big, I think that's starting to fade a little bit right now, but American cable networks are very much into, you know, Duck Dynasty and all of these swamp people. There's been a real kind of redneck interest in those types of niche cultures, and many American production companies, instead of having development people, will actually have a casting department that does nothing but goes out and looks for strange people to make a TV show about. And the other thing I think in cable is all of the Housewives series, the high drama, fighting people, family dramas, Kardashians, those types of things is really what cable seems to be looking for right now. I wish that we had more room for wonderful types of programs that you produce, and they are life-changing, they are inspiring. Unfortunately, I don't think that those types of things in the cable market, they've been more successful in network, but in the cable market, those shows are, I think, harder to sell.
So Richard, when you produced, when it was sold to NBC, then the Baby Boroughs, what kind of cultural differences do you made the show in Britain, and now you make it in the US? What are the differences you have to take into your kind of making the show?
Well, the first thing was that, I mean, I thought, God, $6 million to make 6 hours. God, I'm going to make 60 hours with this. But actually, you know, what we soon found out was we had an American showrunner who had done many seasons of Survivor, and one of the first things you know is that the network expectations and values is that it has to be shot like a feature film, which means that rather than in the UK where we shot it with small cameras and maybe one DV director following some of the action, you know, to do it for NBC, you had to have 2 digi-cameras cross-shooting in every single possibility of any moment of actuality. So actually, when you're setting up that kind of operation, pretty soon your money is you know, it's going on screen. And actually, we did not make a lot. We put a lot of that money on screen for that first series because we wanted it to be. I suppose we wanted it to be good, and we saw that the commercial benefits would come if it went to a second and third and fourth season. It was a fantastic producing experience for me and I think that the showrunner who had done Survivor, he was very keen to do it because it wasn't a competitive elimination show. You know, here was a doc reality show on Network America about something important. And so, you know, and it was a very interesting experience because they loved following the unfolding actuality, but actually where I was able to help was that I remember on the day one, virtually nothing happened because they were sitting back, just waiting for the actuality to unfold, which is fine when you've got an elimination and people are running through crocodile-infested rivers. You're going to get people shouting and screaming, but actually with something like the baby borrowers and a lot of the constructed doc that we do in the UK, you have to go in there and produce it, in an authentic way, but you have to go in there by being curious about the characters, asking them questions. And so I remember at the end of day one, listen guys, if you just sit back and film this, nothing's going to happen. You've got to go in there and stoke it, and you've got to be curious about the people and start to... but and that's where working together we learned a lot, and it was fantastically creatively inspiring.
So, as I remember the opening of the British show, it says that teenage pregnancy is a rising problem in the UK. Because of that, we're doing this experiment. Did you have that opening in America as well?
No, I don't think we did have that opening in America.
Would you ever have such an opening?
But, it's interesting because, again, I think it goes back to the sort of slightly generalising about America being a dumbed-down place, because actually, funnily enough, although the prominence of it addressing teen pregnancy wasn't headlined there, NBC preferred to go with the notion of don't grow up too fast. Young teenagers shouldn't. And I think in a way that series is more honestly about that message. And also interestingly, actually, off-screen, Planned Parenthood and the US organisations that work around teen pregnancy got much more involved in the off-screen and campaigning than the British equivalents ever did.
But to your point, in America, you do need to sort of sugarcoat the medicine.
Sugarcoat the medicine.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were saying earlier, but 16 and Pregnant is a great example of that. When that was first announced, everyone thought that's so salacious. You're celebrating teen pregnancy and glorifying it, when in fact it has, I guess, much like baby borrowers, it's proven that it's been more preventative than anything else, and it's gotten moms and sons sitting together, and moms and daughters, and fathers and daughters sitting together watching a show to start a dialogue about something that's very uncomfortable, and parents don't know how to start the conversation. So it's actually been very helpful.
Did it stir in any controversy, the baby borrowers in the US?
Yes, no, it did. In fact, it stirred enough controversy that NBC commissioned a 1-hour special, which was shown, about 2 or 3 months after the airing of the series. So where it was all debated, and they had some of the parents who had lent children to the show, as well as people who were against the show and thought it was, disgraceful and, psychologically damaging for babies, etc. So, yeah, it did.
Speaking of controversy, your latest show, Make Bradford British, which is going to be on air in Denmark as well in the fall, as far as I know, you wanted to take that to America as well.
Yes.
Should we just see how you presented it?
Yeah.
There, well, so please run the...
In 2012, British viewers witnessed something that they'd never seen before.
If I don't want you to feel how I feel about being called a nigger, then I've basically got to look at myself.
And primetime Channel 4 saw its ratings.
She don't fit in with us. They don't fit in.
More than double.
Woo! I didn't know I'd been saying prayers.
An unprecedented 3.2 million people tuned in to this groundbreaking series.
I'm so excited.
Which began with a very simple question.
I've just got to be careful I don't say anything that I might regret.
What does it mean to be British?
You just... You have... I don't know.
To get an answer, first, the residents of one of the nation's most racially divided cities...
They want to make you feel intimidated. It's a ticking time bomb.
...were made to take the British government's own...
Question 1.
...citizenship test.
Our people need to know the percentage of Muslims.
500,000 people logged on to take the same test at home.
I don't understand the question.
95% of everyone, on screen and online, failed.
Obviously, as British as I thought. That's how it goes, isn't it?
Then, 8 people who failed the test from wildly different backgrounds had to live under the same roof.
Don't like sharing.
And as they struggled to agree
You said yourself, come here, not to hide who we are, yeah?
on what it means to be British,
He's blocking the door.
hidden prejudices
We're all using the word packy.
were revealed,
You're black bastard, you're a lovely guy. You're a lovely guy.
He said what?
and liberal views
There's no point me praying 5 times a day if I'm going to turn around and be told arse to you.
were tested to breaking point.
The colour of your skin is absolutely irrelevant to me.
I feel insulted. You're insulting me now.
Why not?
But if you're a dickhead, you're a dickhead.
The first episode trended on Twitter globally, and the audience returned to watch as the failed citizens headed home.
I'm quite excited, to be honest. It's going to be a good journey.
With each other.
Ooh, coming home. I know.
And discovered a side of their country
I've never come into an Asian person's home before.
Never.
Never.
they'd never seen.
Mosques and that. I thought they were like terrorist centres.
But while some began to realise
He's looking at me now, not just as a black person, as a human being as well.
that their ideas of Britishness
There's women like me who are coming out.
Dressing like that. How the fuck are you coming out?
had to change,
The ways of life are the old British ways.
experiencing the full story
I bought a belt just in case I want to hang myself.
of the nation they'd always called home.
If they don't like it, they should go back to their own country.
Oh my God, I am from this country.
Didn't suit everyone.
Listen, this is only about me, about being British.
Mohammed. Mohammed, please.
This heartwarming,
Just sit on the toilet and make sure everything's pointing downwards.
refreshingly honest,
I don't think he's racist. I just think he's naive.
painfully moving,
I mean, really, British, how can I ever be seen as being British?
and massively successful series
I wanted to be white when I was a kid. I thought, oh, I wish I were white.
did more than just explore Britishness.
Is this Britishness to you, do you think?
No.
It issued a challenge to every race
And I'm disgusted with myself.
and creed in our modern world.
I find myself saying my own prayers. Why am I doing it?
Because no matter which nation we think we're from,
But you know that I'm British. I'm born here. But it's more to it than that, and I'm learning.
what values we think we should share,
Racism in any form is no longer allowed.
we'll never know what it really means to be us
Now I understand why you are what you are.
until we really know each other.
What's your name?
And being British is in there, in my heart. In my heart. But let me stress though, that is so far, because we still got a long way to go.
Sometimes you have to force people to live together.
We know we can do this.
Annie, as an American showrunner, would you think that was an easy sell to take into the US?
I wish it would be, but I don't think, I'm not sure, really. I cannot say that in America today, the American public is very willing to look at itself honestly. I know that Morgan Spurlock did a show called 30 Days that was very similar to this, that I think what, 2 or 3 seasons I think they did?
Yeah.
Of that? Yeah. I think it was a noble try, and you know, everything I see from you, I'm like, I want to go work with this guy right now, because I wish that America would be willing to think more deeply when it comes to some of its reality, nonfiction types of programs. But I think that could scare some, you know, networks. But I also think it could be riveting television. It's finding the place to put it. I don't know where it would go. Any kind of idea, I'm always thinking, what network would be interested in that? Where could it sell?
But that's where the agent comes in.
Yeah.
What did you think, Allison, when Richard presented this?
I mean, I for the same reason why Annie would want to come work with him, it's why I want to work with him as well. I mean, but I felt the same obstacles. And, you start thinking about, okay, if you're going to sell it to, and we met with NBC and got inside the head of NBC a little bit. And, the way to do it for NBC would be attach big-name comedian to go in and be the host of this and do this, And so we sort of dangled out names that we knew he would want, like Dave Chappelle or someone, and he got all excited. But frankly, the more we tried to tailor it for him and people like him, the further away we got, I think, from what it really is. And, we finally, and I won't, but we finally found someone who was willing to take a chance. And I think the timing of this one in particular, because it's an election year, was key. Because, it really is a time to think about what it means to be an American. And so we used that time period and sort of the fact that it's so topical as a way to kind of drive it and quickly get people talking about it and thinking about it. Whereas I think if it weren't an election year, it would have been a harder sell.
So what happened?
Well, we took it to the States and we showed it to various broadcasters and cable channels, and as Allison was saying, talked to NBC about how they might do it, and MTV expressed real interest and in fact engaged with it in an incredibly creative way. Said that that they'd like to. They'd like to order 6 if they were to do it, because they saw the importance of it unfolding and being allowed to breathe, which is, unusual coming from American executives. But I think ultimately MTV just felt it was a step too far. You often hear this, we're not quite ready for it yet. And then Nat Geo, National Geographic, decided that they did want to do it. As a 2-part special, so a bit like the way it was done in Britain. But there was, I think it's true to say they were kind of 90% or even 80% into it, because I think they were nervous about it too. And actually, Allison and Michael were key in getting it pushed over the line and turning it into a commission, taking them to the 100%. And so we then had quite a difficult budget negotiation, but we got through that, and we were prepared to, we were going to make no money out of this show at all. We were going to put heart and soul into making it, and then, as often happens...
But is that because it's an important topic, or because you want to get into the US?
Both, absolutely both, yeah. One is I was passionate about doing it and very excited creatively about putting this on American television. But secondly, yeah, absolutely, we were actually moving our kind of West Coast operation to New York, to the East Coast, because, again, talking about the American market, one of the things that's difficult for Danish producers, British producers, is that, like anywhere, the buyers want you living in the cities, I found going to LA 2-3 times a year wasn't sufficient to really sell enough shows to make Love US work. So that's part of the reason we've moved it to New York, where it's, I can get over there more often, I can start to build relationships, and also because the cable market is much stronger now, and there's lots of cable execs in New York. Anyway, so we started, again, the difficult process of finding the right showrunner for the series. We started doing that, and there was a whole debate about where it should be made. Should it be made in New York? Should it be made in Philadelphia? And then a new executive got involved, and I think this is another big challenge. Listen, it happens in every country. You get, the kind of rotating chair of executives that happens in Britain, a lot too. But I think in America it probably happens more, it's fair to say.
Yeah, no, you don't. You send flowers to someone and they leave it in their office for the next guy that's coming in. That's, yeah. No, but it was a perfect storm, though, I think, because you had an executive who was just starting out there, who has just taken on the role of president of the network, and so he was sort of unsure of himself. And then you have subject matter that is risky, and so on one hand, the way we kind of pushed it over and got him to agree to buy it was that this is your chance to sort of get attention. It's a big way to come in and announce, I'm here, this is what our network is now doing. So on one hand, it was great that he was willing to take that risk, but it ended up he wasn't really willing to go all the way.
What happened then?
Yeah, so we then ended up, we were going to produce it in Phoenix. So we hired a casting company to start the casting, and literally one day, I think at the end of my, we'd got the showrunner on board. I'd spent a week in New York working with the showrunner to make sure the show was on track and happening. And I walked into Allison's office, and she looked slightly unwell. And I said, "What is it? Have you got bad news?" And she said, "Yeah, you could say that." And she'd got a call, and they'd just cancelled the show. Just like that.
What had happened was they came from an offsite, and anytime you hear about network offsites, you should be nervous. So they came from an offsite, and they decided that instead of 20% of their schedule being specials versus series, they now decided that really they're going to put their money towards series, ongoing series, and only make 5% of their schedule specials. And this was considered a special, 2 hour. And so they looked at what was sort of at the most beginning stages of production and literally just started canceling about 10, 12 shows, and this was one of them.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, it gives you an insight into how ruthless America can be commercially, but actually, in terms of the kill fee is fairly generous. So technically, we'll probably make more money from not having made the show, immediately than we would in terms of making the show. Obviously, I would much rather have made the show, because for the reasons we talked about earlier, that wanted to make the show, but also the long-term investment and everything else, which is what the aim was.
So what's next now in your US adventure?
Listen,
did this give you up?
Listen, I think if you work in television as a television producer and you have to sell shows, when you get told no, it should make you stronger. If it doesn't make you stronger, then you shouldn't be pitching ideas. And to be honest, it makes me more determined to crack it. We have taken the showrunner who was due to make Bradford British and working with Allison. We've appointed him as a New York-based exec. We were trying it out for 6 months. And we are taking more shows out there. And for us, being really candid and honest, selling the Great British Bake Off in America is our key thing because it's probably the most successful UK format that hasn't yet sold in America. And that in itself is a very interesting process because you look at it, America, and you see lots of shows from the UK which have rated about a third of Bake Off that are on, so for me it's like, why aren't baking is as American as apple pie. If anyone should buy it, it's the Americans. But, it's a challenge to sell it because people say, oh, we've already got loads of food competition shows, there's loads of baking shows already on. So, but you just have to, listen, Dancing with the Stars, Strictly Come Dancing, was rejected, and then they bought it. So, the other night on Lifetime, a format called The Week the Women Went, transmitted and did well. Allison was involved in making 2 pilots of that 2 or 3 years ago. I just think with the States, if you don't live there, but you produce good creative content, whether it's in Denmark or in Britain, you just have to be determined without taking your eye off your prime business.
So you're still wanting to make it in the US? Yeah,
definitely. We're doing a series in the UK at the moment, actually, for Sarah Ramsden, who's here in the audience, called My Last Summer, which is a very challenging reality show because it's following people who have terminal illness, and putting them in a constructed documentary with lots of, really invested with social purpose. I would love to sell that in America. It'll be as challenging to sell that as any show previous, if not more challenging. But, the fact that it's difficult to do that, the fact that it has to be, what was your expression? Sugar-coated, I don't think should stop you.
Brilliant. Good. Time's up. Lunchtime. Thank you very much to Annie, Allison, Richard.
Thank you.